got
What's
too
that one
many
made out of?
layers. It's wool, and then it's linen. Nikki made it for me.
It's because the wool like fights against itself to keep it like the ears up because it'll grip.
Yep.
Okay, whenever.
Okay.
Oh, Gabe, stop talking.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, welcome to Sibling Saturday. I'm Shaxi, and my real life sister is Sir Rifkin. And this is the first of what will be a series of interviews on Saturdays of other siblings in the SCA. And tonight we have His Royal Highness of Atenveldt, Sir Cypzser, and Sir Gabe, his brother.
The cooler brother. It says it if you look at the name.
I don't know that they can see. Well, we can see that.
Nice.
I like that I'm the older sister, and I'm over Cypzser. Misty's the younger sister, and she's over Gabe. I think that's great.
Not on my screen.
No, it's not how you're coming.
Oh man,
It's like the Brady Bunch.
this is how sibling rivalries start.
Let's do it, Rifkin. We're gonna take out the older siblings right now.
Ooh. What is your SCA origin story? How did you guys start in the SCA?
Oh man, Gabe, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I can start it. We're second generation, but we're kind of not because we had a choice in joining the SCA because I was 9 and Nick was 12.
We're still second gen. We just weren't born into the SCA.
Yeah.
I guess if you really break it down.
Misty, do you have a photo of 9 and 12-year-old?
I just might.
Oh, nice.
I'm pretty
got the
excited.
hookups.
But we lived in Montana, and my dad had to work in Colorado, and his roommate, when he was there,
You see
in
those?
the SCA. So he went to an event without us, and then we moved to Colorado. We went to an event, and we sat down and had dinner afterwards and had a discussion if we wanted to do it as a family, and we all loved it, so we kept coming back. Oh my God, we're adorable, Nick.
You guys are adorable.
Look at mom. Look at mom. She's so
little
cute.
mom over there.
Your
was
mom
the
is
coolest-
adorable too.
I think what kept us in the SCA, like from our very first event, which was like the coolest thing ever, is the person that brought us to the event, like that brought our family, had a son that was about our age, and he showed us how to make like foam weapons out of PVC pipe and like pipe insulation. And so we had made like, I don't know, 10 boffer swords or whatever. And so when we went to the event, it was at this really cool campground that had like this big foresty area, and then the camping area was kind of separate. And so we grabbed like all of the kids on site and we just went into the woods, and I don't remember seeing my parents for like 2 days. Like we just squirrel childrened it up, just beat the crap out of each other with foam weapons. Cause where we grew up, there's no rules for armor or anything. So we just ran around and we're playing capture the flag. And like we came home, we were exhausted and we had so much fun and we made a bunch of friends. It was like, how can we not do this ever again? Like, this was so cool.
I'm pretty sure Dad had to take out a small loan to pay for our PVC consumption at that point. So after that event, we went home and we carried around. It took up like a quarter of the truck bed, just of boffers, because we would go to events and then like arm everyone so we could have like these massive melees.
Yeah.
Well, see, our kids never have been able to do that because it's, you have to fight in your own camp and it has to be supervised and it's super structured here. So you guys are lucky.
We are. It was pretty fun growing up at that time and where we were in the SCA to be able to have that freedom, which is.
Did you say fighting is kind of what drew you in?
Most likely, I would say. I mean, as I tell people all the time, you come because the fighting's awesome, then you end up staying because of the people. Like, that's really the draw of the SCA. But I think when we were little kids, we just liked hitting each other, so it was pretty fun. And we didn't get in trouble when we hit each other with foam weapons.
It was like instant family too, because we had just moved back to Colorado, because we'd been in Colorado at one point. We were moving back to Colorado, and we like roll up, and the guy that brought us to the event is like, "Hey, this is the household we're in." And it was like, "Oh, that's cool. I guess we're part of this household now." and they had other kids that were our age. And, mom and dad had a lot of fun, but I think in reality, like part of that came down to like dad had kind of an interesting first event and an even more interesting second event. And he kind of, like Gabe said, he looked at us and he was like, do you guys really want to keep doing this? And we're like, we had so much fun. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll power through this then. And now we're still here.
And they ended up loving it eventually, though.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, Dad liked it, but Mom was like, I'll do it because you guys like it. Mom didn't wear garb for the first 2 or 3 years. She really didn't start wearing garb until she became Baroness of Denver.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like
she had all this garb. We're like, where did this come from? You've been wearing your pajamas in camp. Because she liked being camp mom. She would cook dinner for 40 people and then never leave camp. And then Dad's like, hey, do you want to be Baron and Baroness? And they ran for it and got it. And then Mom's like, oh, I guess I need garb now. And just jumped into it.
She kind of started a little before that so that she didn't.
She did.
So she wasn't like hobo mom of the barony, And so she had these pants that she had gotten from Greece because she was in Greece for a little while. And she pretty much wore those every event. And we called them clown pants, but they're basic SCA, super baggy, elastic at the ankles, elastic at the waist, like pants.
Harem pants.
And, yeah, exactly. She wore that all the time. And then, Dad was like, oh, let's do this. And I was like, all right, cool. I don't know what all that means, but we're going to do it. And she knows how to sew, right? Her mom had taught her to sew, but she was like, I can sew jeans. I don't I guess I'll figure this other stuff out. But
I learned to sew in the SCA. We both did.
Yeah, it's cool.
And luckily Mom came into it kind of knowing how to sew. So she just went and bought T-tunic patterns. So we were just little munchkins running around with all our T-tunics. And it was lovely and awesome. And then she finally was like, fine, I guess I'll sew it myself garb too. Because she made us a ton of outfits and then made herself one outfit, as moms tend to do.
Yeah.
So
is that a good origin? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just asking, that's a lot of our origin, I guess. So did you need anything else?
I think that's great. I love that theory.
Okay.
Yeah. So your dad fought as well, right?
Yeah, he still fights.
Yeah.
So when go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say we all call him Daddy Bobby, and he's in the Outlands, and he actually won crown
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And hopefully he can win another one before he gets too old. That's what we're hoping.
We're hoping.
I think I might have met him when I went out there when Jim and I taught at the task thing.
Yeah, you definitely did. He was at that class.
Yeah,
he looks pretty much just like us, except for with gray hair. We all look pretty similar.
So did he get knighted before you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. He was knighted, right after him and Mom stepped up as Baron and Baroness? 6 months or so?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Because, they stepped up when he was a squire, and then when they stepped down. But they were Baron and Baroness for 4 years. So that's a good gap there.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Mom loves reigning. She loves it so much. Dad was like, I'm done with this. Mom's like, we could do another year. Dad's like,
yeah, it's just our basement that's covered in SCA stuff. No big deal. We didn't need those rooms.
A lot of other people I know that are second gen and SCA people have a certain level of resentment towards their parents about how big of a role the SCA played and how they felt they kind of took backseat to SCA sometimes. Did you guys ever feel like that, or were you just too into it to feel like that?
Our parents gave us a lot of freedom growing up, and they were I love the way my parents raised us. They actually listened to our opinions. And honestly, I believe if me and Nick said we never wanted to play again, they would have stopped playing. But we all liked doing it as a family. It was something we could go and do. So that's what kind of kept us all into it. Is we all say Nick wasn't having fun for a couple months, but he knew we were still loving it. So he would tough that out until he found the love for the game again. And we all kind of worked through it together. And it's just been such a huge part of our life. It's kind of something that's hard to take away.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got lucky with our parents and them actually listening to us growing up.
That's awesome.
So did you guys all fight together with your dad?
Yeah, dad used to tell all his buddies at work that it's pretty fun going and watching your kids play sports and seeing them achieve their goals. It's an entirely different feeling to charge a castle wall with them.
And that's
Nice.
something we got kind of lucky with. Like, we travel a lot, and our parents have always traveled a lot. And so we kind of got into that habit. And like my first year of being able to fight, so when I turned 16, Dad took me to Gulf Wars. He took me to Australia. I think we even went to Penzic, but I wasn't quite old enough, and they hadn't adjusted the rules yet to fight
Lily's.
there. And Lily's. So we went to, I mean,
both our first years.
Yeah, so Dad did that for both of us. He kind of was just like, okay, if you're gonna fight, like, let's do it. Let's have fun. Like, let's go beat people up together.
Let's give you the full experience.
Yeah.
That's
it
awesome.
was pretty fun. There used to be a joke because we went to so many wars together and we got fairly good at melee fighting. And the joke was always you had to kill me first because I always fought with spear. You had to kill me first, and then you kill Nick, and then Dad's just bored because his kids are gone, so he'll just walk off the field.
That's awesome. So, Gabe, did you start fighting at the same time, even though you were 3 years behind and not legally able to? I mean, I don't want to out you or anything, but I mean, like at home, practicing.
Let's just say I practiced a lot before I was 16. That's how we'll answer that question.
So when you were able to legally fight in the SCA, you already had a really good foundation going.
Yes, a fairly decent foundation going, possibly an AOA fighting award.
Nice.
Possibly, allegedly.
And did you guys get knighted around the same time?
We were both 21.
Yeah, we got knighted at the same age, but he got knighted 3 years after I did. So.
Who were you guys squired to?
Bela.
Bela from the Outlands.
Both of you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And that was actually a Gabe decision, funny enough. Because I just turned 16. No, I was like 16, 17, and I had been fighting for a little bit.
Neither of us were fighting. It was right before you started to fight.
No. This was
offered like 3 times.
So Bela like threw a joke at us, right? Because we were always in similar camps, and he was like, "Well, if you guys want red belts, I'll give you red belts." And we're like, "Yeah, okay." Like we're just kids, whatever, dude. And then like I actually started fighting, and I had a couple people come talk to me about becoming a squire, and I was like I've been in the SCA since I was a kid. Like I kind of know what that means. I don't fully know what that means though. Like so, I'm gonna chill out for a little bit and listen. And then Bela kind of offered again. He said, "Hey, like." I will squire both of you if you want to be squired. And Gabe thought about it, and I was thinking about it, and Gabe was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to squire to Bela. Gabe was like 13 or 14 at the time. And I was like, you know what? Like, we don't always do things together, right? We do a lot of things together, but we don't always do the same thing together. Like let's do this. And so he decided, let's do it. And I was like, all right, cool. We're doing it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that happened. It was pretty funny.
So were you guys competitive with each other, or
in completely weird ways? Like,
yeah, Nick's more athletic than me, so I could never really compete with him at fighting. But we get competitive about things that don't matter.
We try not to compete as much, or we try to like, I think, support each other, right? So Gabe always fought spear. So for his first like 2 or 3 years of fighting, he pretty much only fought melee, and he only fought spear. And it was, I think, due to the fact that like I fought sword and shield, Dad fought sword and shield, and he didn't want there. We try not to compare each other too much. And so like even in Boffers, Gabe always fought with a glaive or a spear, and I would fight with sword or 2 swords. We just always do like different things together. And I don't know, that's just like how we've always done things. Like even Gabe's getting into doing some metalworking and things like that, but it's still a very like ancillary, like side to things that I don't do. You know, he's gone, okay, well, I'm going to take some of the cool stuff that you're doing and I'm just going to go over this direction and take my own leap of faith and do whatever. So it's, I don't know, we've always done that on accident, whether it's on accident or purpose. I have no idea, but
I don't know. I've always found that our family works very well as a team together, and that possibly comes from playing a bunch of video games when we were really young. We would always play roles in the video games that supported each other. And so it's one of those like, why would I fight with a sword and shield? I already have 2 of those on my team because these are who I'm going to be fighting with. So I need to get good at this thing because they're good at those things, and then we can all work together.
But you guys both fight Madhu now, right?
Yeah, that's to
now, yeah.
Right. He's so happy about it.
Bala's so stoked. For so long, he wanted us to fight Madhu.
We refused because he did it.
Well, and we're really stubborn in like the dumbest ways. And so we were like, no, like I've got to figure this out. Like, and so I fought sword and all types of shields. And Gabe and I both fight mass weapons, like anything. We pick it up, we have fun with it, and we try not to get hurt. And then, yeah, recently, the last 2 years or so, Gabe and I have picked up Madhu and started fighting that. For me, it's been kind of a cool experience because all the stuff that Bela used to tell us like makes a little more sense because I can see it now. I'm like, oh, I don't have a shield in the way. So like all those things he told me were just there. You're like, all right, I understand why it was cool to you and why I had no idea what you were talking about. So
Like they were just waiting there for you to understand them.
Exactly, yeah. All these little seeds of Bela-isms.
That's super interesting though, because Bela is like the best Madhu fighter probably in the world. I mean,
he's got his own style for sure, yeah, and he's really good.
And then you guys were too stubborn to learn it from him when you were sparring.
Well, the thing is, like Bela's good with sword and shield too, so he could teach everything. He can fight with anything, so he could teach us how to fight sword and shield. So it wasn't too big of a deal. But he used to always like make fun of our shields when we were kids, and we're like, "Well, fine, I'm gonna get more shields if you're gonna keep making fun of them."
Yeah.
No, you.
Yeah. The tool of ignorance is what
That's
he
what he
calls
used to
them.
tell us.
Oh.
I was like, whatever, Bela. I'm gonna get good with this, and I'm gonna beat you up, old man.
So when you won crown, was it with Amadou or was it sword and shield?
I was with Amadou.
I don't think we let people fight Madhu and crown now, do we?
Actually,
nope, they changed that law. Just saying.
It used to be almost impossible to have a legal Madhu in Ontario, but it's sort of changed.
Yeah, they got rid of it. Now I can fight with one when I come visit. I'm so excited. We actually
It's like, oh man, I get to go fight people that don't have any idea how to fight this style because it's been banned for so long. It's so good.
When we went to Ontario Crown, we had to make like special Madhus that met the rules.
They were glaives.
We got questioned so many
Can I
times.
bring up the video?
Do you have?
Oh, is there a video?
I have video.
You have the video of
All
Sven
right.
beating up Nick? I love that video.
Oh,
I do,
please,
but the end is cut off.
Oh, that's when he gets hit 15 times.
He hits me so many times, and it is amazing because I didn't expect any of that. I was like,
I did, and I was so happy.
And he was just like, gah, 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 and like chased me down on the field. It was so awesome.
We like, I don't know, what, 15 years ago? No, more than that. 18 years ago, we had some Madhu and glaive fighters in Crown pretty regularly. So some of the older, more treacherous fighters among us are very familiar.
It's pretty hard to call old Silver Spock Sven old and treacherous. Oh, yes.
Oh, and you know, Gabe, that looks a lot like you, though.
That's you can't tell people
That's not Gabe.
It's just my
No,
helmet.
I broke my helmet.
Yeah. Good thing about being siblings, we have similar sized heads, so he was able to wear my helmet for the rest of Crown.
Oh, here it comes. Here's where Sven just feeds me my lunch money.
Not the lunch, his lunch money, he said.
I was like, Sven, let me poke you with this thing.
Unfortunately-
Stop it.
When he hits go, the person with the camera doesn't stay with you.
No.
Oh.
All right, well, what's happening is Nick's getting hit 15 times. That's
Oh, he hits me. I could not fall down fast enough. Sven is so fast and aggressive. And I was like, I'm trying to fall down. He's just, gah, 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 gah. beating me up.
Yeah, I think after he fought Merrick and like he underestimated Merrick's speed, he was like, not underestimating any of these guys.
That was entertaining. I went over to Sven after his fight with Merrick and was like, no one believes us when we tell people how fast he is. And he's like, what do you mean, Gabe? You didn't tell me anything.
Nice.
So
Gabe, I'm gonna make us watch you too.
Oh God.
Let me see.
This is gonna be terrible.
It's not gonna be terrible. You're fighting Dawn's husband.
Oh, I love fighting Artemisia.
Yeah.
Because we both move and it makes for a fun fight.
Can we talk about how cool the names are that you guys have?
Interesting, Nick. We look very similar.
Yeah, hey, that looks like me. Nope, he's got his wrong leg forward. He runs like I do, though.
You kind of chop Octa up a bit in this.
Yeah, his name comes from Herodotus's fourth book, where he talks about all the Scythian kings and stuff. He's Octomycetes is Lord of the Dark Seas, which is kind of a cool Pacific Northwest thing, I guess.
Yeah, I fell over.
Hits you in the foot, knocks you to the ground. He's like, I'll teach you to run from me. Pop, pop.
All right.
We actually had a guy where we grew up that if you ran away from him in a fight, he would just hit you in the shin with a glaive.
Oh, my God. Is that
Couldn't
Haroon?
run anymore. Yeah.
Big scary Haroon.
I'll stop. We don't have to watch fighting, but so when I first saw you fight, Gabe, because I met you first, and when I watched you fight, I'm like, this guy had to have fought in Amtgard. Like your movement, just your speed and everything was like totally like Amtgard. And now that you tell me that you fought foam for like
A while.
a
It's about
while,
4 or 5 years.
that makes a lot of sense. But you both have like such great footwork and speed. Do you think that's a result of fighting so much foam?
Honestly, I think it's a result of being children when we started. So it made our muscles grow in certain ways that allowed us, like we learned it at a young age. So it's kind of one of those, we were gifted a little bit that way. So we had
like we did football.
Yeah.
You think cheerleading contributed to that footwork at all?
It didn't. I don't know that it helped with footwork, but it certainly helped with, like, I don't know, sometimes you get knocked over and you got to learn how to fall, right? There's interesting things that, like, I think we learned from cheerleading, though, which is like body mechanics, especially trying to do flips or trying to do anything. Like you've got to really know where your body is and how it works, because like any inefficiency in movement is going to cause you to fall on your face.
Right.
And so, like, I think between football and track and cheerleading and everything else that we did as kids, like just transferring some of that stuff, and we're both like naturally athletic too. So, I mean, that helps.
You both hinge at your hips too, which is, do you understand what I'm saying? You have really flat backs when you bend.
I do.
And that's not a normal American thing. Most Americans kind of C-spine.
We would have thrown out our back trying to hold someone in the air like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Honest.
Maybe. I never even realized that, though. I'm going to have to go watch some video. I know we lean a lot, right? That's a very like Outlandsy thing, I think.
Yeah.
Like growing up with watching like Rothgar and Alric and some of those guys, where it's just very, even Bela throws these wicked lean shots and you're just like, I don't know where that came from, but it's cool. I want to do that.
Yeah, me and Nick definitely wanted to make, like, we came up with our own weird, super odd style. Like, I've definitely been told quite a few times, like, what are you doing? Why are you fighting like that? It's totally wrong. I'm like, well, it might be, but I'm going to give it a go.
Old college try.
Yeah.
So going back to the crown that you just won, who did you fight in the finals?
I fought Mark von Neumann.
Oh my God.
So Newman is really like old school. And he was out of the SCA for about 20 years or so,
20.
and then came back.
Wow.
And so recently he's a phenomenal dude. Like, I like him a lot. He's super nice. And he's willing to train and hit you and show you where you're open however much you want. But yeah, so I fought him, and he's just like old Atenveldt, like strapped heater. Like, if you get within range, I'm gonna take your arm off type of fighter.
It's terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Oh yeah, that guy can hit with an 11 like at will. He's super, like, I don't know. He doesn't hit me super hard, which is cool because I try to take anything that like whizzes by me from him. But I've seen it before where like you don't take a shot and he's like, here's your leg. Just like nukes you.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying to fight him ever. I try and avoid him at all times.
Interesting. So how many crowns did you final in before you won this one?
Just the one previous.
Okay.
So
With Morgan?
Yeah. So I fought Morgan in the one before, and like I was so stoked because the finals were best 3 out of 5, changing styles. And so the first round was my pick, and I was like, if I can win this round, like I've got the tournament. Like I can't beat Morgan sword and shield. Like maybe I can, but like mentally I wasn't ready to beat him sword and shield. But I was like, I have trained mass weapons since I was a kid, and then like got into the fight and fought kind of silly, and he took advantage of it and he beat me. And then going into the second round, I was like, nope, like he's gonna crush me. Or it wasn't best 3 out of 5, it was best 2 out of 3 is what it was. So, but yeah, that was the only other crown that I'd ever finaled in.
All right. I remember I saw Morgan at On to Your West War after that, I think. Maybe not. And I was asking him about you because, you know, at On to Your West or at On to Your Crown, I mean, you're so fast and you move so well. I'm just like, why hasn't that dude won crown? And then, you know, a year later you win. But
it's mental.
You are really fun to watch fight.
Thank you.
Both of you. Cooler brother too.
I think we try to have fun while we're fighting.
Yeah.
It shows.
Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to train when you're actually having a good time.
How much do you guys push each other?
I don't know. We tend to support each other better, not really push each other. Because we only fight each other probably once a year because someone always ends up getting hurt. Because we fight so similarly, we end up hitting each other in like the wrist or the knee.
Oh, like basket punching each other in the swords, and you're just like, stop throwing the shot that I was trying to throw. But I don't know, we message each other every once in a while, and it, again, like back to the stubborn thing, we respond very differently to being pushed. And there's times where I think we don't push each other too often, like verbally, because there are times where like anything you say, if it's coming from your brother, like it's just the wrong thing and you don't want to hear it. And, you know, we practice with each other. Like when we do get together and we talk about fighting and strategies and like, well, if you do this, or if you switch feet, like you'll notice Gabe fights right foot forward. I fight left foot forward. And so like, we talk about that a lot. Like, what are the advantages? What do you lose? What do you gain? Things like that. You know, and even like working, you know, doing different arts and stuff like that, we talk to each other, but there's not a whole lot of like, hey, like you should be out there doing this. Cause I know the moment that I say you should be doing something or you need to do this, like him and I both respond the same way. And we're like, I don't need to do anything. Like if it wasn't my idea, like I'm not doing it. And it's, I don't know, just a weird family habit.
Bela hated when we were squires because if he told us to do anything, we'd do the exact opposite. We had to kind of like phrase it in a way that made it sound like it was kind of our idea. Because if
you just ask us to do it and we'll do it. But
if you tell us
to
to do something, we're like, you're not in charge of me. And then we would just do the opposite just to spite whoever told us to do something.
My husband's a little bit.
I'm going to ask him about both of you.
Oh, dude. He'll love it.
Ask him how tough it was.
Have you heard the pants story with Gabe?
No.
So I'll be real quick about this because it relates. So Gabe, for a long time, we wanted him to do pickup fights because he was naturally good, and he watches, he learns from watching, and so he would go out and he would fight, and he would do a great job, but we couldn't get him to like go do pickups. We're like, dude, you just need to do pickups. You need to go beat up, Duke, whatever, or whoever. Like, just go fight these people and do a good job at pickups. He'd be like, I don't really want to, right? And so there's always that issue. And then for a long time, Gabe would just wear pajama pants. And so
or just boxers.
Or just boxers, right? Like just something, cotton, white boxers, whatever. It looks like brace, who knows? And like Bela one time, like this is where it like came to a clash. We were at a Great Western War, and Gabe was like completely, like not completely, he was like half unarmored. And someone walked up to Bela and like, why isn't Gabe doing pickups? Like, I don't understand. And Bela like looks at them and he goes, do you know how long it took me to get Gabe to wear pants? Like, I'm not going to ask him to do pickups because I know the moment I do, he's not going to do pickups. I couldn't even get him to wear pants for like 3 years. It's stubborn genes, I guess.
Gabe, do you have any squires?
I have one squire, but he lives in Florida, and he hasn't actually been playing for a while. But yeah, no, it was Bela made me enter a tournament once, and I lost to someone I shouldn't lose to in the first round, and then went and ate SpaghettiOs in front of Bela. Because he told me I had to fight in the tournament, so I went and embarrassed him, and then just left before the next round, took all my armor off, came back with a can of SpaghettiOs, and just sat next to Bela. He's like, oh my God.
Ate them out of the can?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
If I'm going to embarrass my night, I'm going to embarrass my night. That's what's going to happen.
Nice.
So you haven't gotten that embarrassing squire yet, but I'm betting it's coming to you.
Oh, I'm sure it will be there.
One day, Gabe's going to get it.
The karma on that one is going to be rough.
Cypzser, do you have squires?
So I had one squire, and he actually became, so I'll preface this, he was a white scarf before I squired him. And he is a like top tier fencer. He is really, really good. His name's Hawk, a master Hawk. And so I had squired him a couple of years ago before I came to Atenveldt. And then he got his master of defense. And so I, as is Outland's tradition, I took his belt back so that he could be a master of defense. He still has that belt for one day when he decides he wants to come beat everyone up on the heavy field and, decides he wants to be a knight. then he'll get there and he can give that to somebody else. And then I have another kid that I was going to squire at an event in Atenveldt, and then everything got canceled. So we had planned on doing that, and that's his name is Griffin. He doesn't have an SCA name yet. He's working on that. And but his dad is actually my King's champion, or will be my King's champion when I step up. So really, really cool, close family friends.
That's awesome. And you just got laureled, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. So this year's been kind of interesting. I was offered my laurel almost to the day of my, I think almost 8 years to the day of my actual knighting. And so I got offered that. I then won Crown Tournament. And then at Estrella, they laureled me. So
before you, I guess you haven't stepped up yet because you're still Crown Prince.
Yeah. We're still figuring that one out.
That's your laurel ceremony, right? On the left?
Yeah, with those beautiful muck boots.
And then I also have some pictures of your art. So why don't we just look at those too?
All right. Oh, all sorts of fun things.
Yeah.
So is that Repoussé?
Yeah, so that was I've been kind of working on chasing a Repoussé, and there's definitely people out there that are super good at it, and I'm still honestly I think I'm still dabbling in a lot of ways. The left corner is a medallion that I actually made for Master Hawkroll, and it's a mod medallion that I kind of based off of a Thor's hammer, and he fights Madu when he fights heavy, and so the 3 swords is a Madu, a rapier sword, and like a little Viking sword.
Cool.
And then the coronet is Duke Miles from the West. His father wanted a coronet for years, I guess, and so I think he had made his father a court baron. Maybe that might be wrong. Ignore my history lesson there. And so Miles had asked me to make him a cornet, and so that was, I think, like the 3rd one I learned and been working on, and like probably messed up a whole bunch, but it came out really cool. So.
And is that leather or metal, the gorget?
The gorget is actually metal. I did it in aluminum, and then I was trying a new technique to me, which is electro etching. And so some areas are like super deep and others are not. But then I got this, I'm losing the word for it, like a patina that is supposed to make it like this kind of bronzy gold.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out like the gorget itself came out the way I wanted to, the shape, and it works. But I think the execution of it wasn't nearly what I wanted it to be in the end. So I'll probably end up remaking it, but I like it. It's fun.
I like the style of the laurel leaves that you use. That's very Thracian, Scythian looking.
Thank you. Yeah, that was, I'm liking them a lot. So yeah, and those are like,
sent me this, so.
Oh, because she's wonderful.
She is wonderful.
Yeah, those are, I've got a couple different medallions. I try and base them off of like different, period designs or stuff like that. Or I'll take like a medallion that I found. It's like, oh, this is this, 12th century Rus, Kevin Rus medallion or whatever. And I take that and I go, okay, well, like, what if I want to put a bird on it? Or what if I want to put something else on it? And I try and like mash things together a little bit. Sometimes it comes out good and sometimes it doesn't. So, but the middle top one I made for Bela, and it's based off of there's a Magyar bird that I am just blanking on right now. It's this super cool bird that I made for him when he got offered his pelican. And then there's like Melanie or Countess Dionysia on the left. Upper right is something I made for Mineko. And then on the right side is a pair of cornets that I made for my parents. So when I presented those to them at their coronation, their stepping down coronation. So
I love the greaves. Those are really cool.
Thanks.
And then we can look at some of Gabe's art too. So let's do that.
Dude, Gabe's a secret arter. He makes you think like he doesn't have any talents whatsoever unless you're putting pipe in the ground or something, but he's got this.
Well, I am wearing, can we see that? My bracelet that Gabe made me.
All right.
The ring that he made my daughter. So.
My son stole both the bracelet and the ring that Gabe made me. So I will never be seeing those again.
I'll send you another one. It'll be all right.
Oh, that's sweet.
Gabe's got that quarantine ADD where he's just like, I'm going to make a horde of things.
That's actually been my goal. I've just been filling Crown Royal bags with jewelry so I can trade it to people. I'm like, I want to be able to bribe people for things. I actually fought in a tournament before all this, like before we weren't allowed to go fighting things anymore. And I tried to bribe the Baron and Baroness with rings to give me favor in the final round.
Well, my husband fell in love with those spurs that you brought to
those
Stromgarde.
Lovely prick spurs.
And you got a hat out of that deal, so I think you did pretty well.
A lovely hat. It has no phallic symbols on it at all. None whatsoever.
So can you explain the whole flying H thing and no, we don't want to talk about that? Okay.
No, we can. It's me and my friend Sir Zachariah, when we both lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, or Unserhofen in the Outlands. And we had the habit of, because I was, I think, 21 at the time and had just gotten knighted. And we would go to bars on Saturday night and then not make Sunday morning practice. So the guy who had known us since we were kids and had like helped us, he had made us our first buffers and things like that. He's like, "Are you guys doing alternative practice now? What is going on here?" And so he'd always make fun of us for missing practice. And we went to an event and we showed up, and at the event there was a stack of pallets that was bar height. And so Sir Zachariah put his tent right by it, and we just had parties around it and treated it like a bar. And so that night walked up and was like, "You guys can't go anywhere without a bar? Why is this even here?" And he thought we actually brought it. And we're like, "No, we didn't." And then he looked at us and was just like, "Why didn't you?" And then we made a bar for the next event. And it is a bar that we push around. It's just like a little cart that we push around at events. And
The good old H.
for us.
I think
He made one that makes quesadillas. He's got a little shorter one.
Oh yeah, they all have different names, and there's like random franchises off of it. Because Gabe is of the belief that if everybody has a bar, that he eventually
Anywhere I go, there's a bar.
there's a
And I would
bar.
be more comfortable.
Yeah, so it's perfect. But then like you were kind of I think asking about the winged phalluses, the winged penises, if you will. I think that is, I mean, it's a very Roman thing to do. And so like our good buddy Xerxes from Callantyr, he fell in love with like all the little like winged penis chimes and stuff like that. And then I think it came from him, but then it just kind of kept going. And so like, I don't know, it's just a reminder to have fun really, right? Like if you're holding something that's got like a winged dong on it, like then it's
Or
really hard.
you're wearing it on your head.
Yeah,
it's really hard to be taken too seriously.
Exactly.
Just like these goofy hats.
Yes.
Dude, goofy hats are the best.
You're much more approachable by everyone if you have a weird, goofy hat on.
It's true.
I just think it's kind of cool how you have this sort of like loose affiliation through all these kingdoms, like, and to sort of have fun and to bring levity to the SCA. Because I mean, I don't know you as well, but I mean, Gabe, like wherever he goes, he brings levity.
That's what he's really good at that. Like I tend to like ride his coattails on that a little bit. Like if we're at an event, I'm like, all right, what are we doing, Gabe? Like as long as it's fun, like I'm interested. And so he's
trying to remind people that it's a game and we're here to have fun while still respecting all of the things and the ideals we hold. It's every now and then you have to remind someone that this is a game and you shouldn't be treating people that way. We're here to have fun, and that's the main reason we're here. And so joking around and having goofy things to laugh at is always very entertaining for us, and we hope other people get to
narwhal jousting.
Narwhal jousting is a fun game.
Gabe, I've never seen anyone get a room entirely pumped for like the stupidest things before, other than Gabe. Like Gabe is so good at that, and you'll be like hanging around and like you'll be at a party, and I'm going to use the word fuddy-duddies, right? You got a bunch of people that are kind of party poopers or whatever, like and you're just like, man, nothing is going to make this party fun. And then Gabe's like, all right, listen up. You, and you get a drink. You three squires, we're doing squire wrestling. And you're just like looking around like, how did this happen? And then everybody is like, oh, let's pull up a chair and watch squire wrestling, you know, or whatever silly thing Gabe is doing at the time. And that is definitely a Gabeism that he is super good at. Like he can't not have fun. He can't like, and if nobody else is having fun, he's just like, oh, well, I guess I'll go somewhere else where people will have fun.
Or he makes fun. I have he's 16 now, 16-year-old son who's 6'5", and all he wants to do is play Magic or play computer games. And so when we go to SCA events, he has all his Magic cards and he just kind of sits there and waits. And Gabe, drove how many hours from Idaho to come and fight?
That was just like 9. I think it was 9 for that one.
Right, each way.
Just 9.
And spends, an hour or 2 out of his day playing Magic with my son. And it made Sam's event. You know, and it made my event better because my kid is happy and actually wants to go to another SCA event again, but only if Gabe's there. And then the same thing, I ended up taking my daughter to 12th night. It was supposed to be just Misty and I, Rifkin and I, and she ended up coming with me, and she's 10. She was 10 then. And Molly now has this little bag of dice that Gabe gave her, and he taught her how to gamble.
Oh man.
And it's awesome. She's like, yeah, I know how to gamble. Let me teach you. And she brings out her dice, and it's such a gift to be able to connect and include people of all different age groups and interests, and to bring fun.
It's something that me and Nick actually focus fairly heavy on, is because we had so much fun when we were kids. We hate to see kids at events that aren't having any fun. And it's one of those, like, most of the time kids will come to events and no one really talks to them because they're a kid who wants to sit there and have a conversation with a kid, and they kind of just hang out. So there's normally not that many things for a kid to do. And in reality, they just want to hang out and be a part of it. So if you can include them in some way, like, they're happy to just be involved. And if you can just sit and listen to a 10-year-old kid talk for 5 minutes, they've had a great time. Like, you didn't say anything. They just had a great time because they got to talk to someone. And it's something that, like, me and Nick try to do, because it's important to us that kids still have fun in this game, because it brought so much joy to our lives that it's very important to us. And I actually try to do that, like, when we're at parties and things like that. I'll try and find people who are newer and look like they're having no fun at all, and try and make their event a little better by including them in some way. Because it's hard to be new nowadays, because most of the people that still play have been playing for a very long time and have these relationships with people that make them very close. It's hard for a new person to break into that relationship. So just including them in having some sort of fun and making it a good time for them that day or night is pretty important to me, honestly. Because
you're treating them like a person.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, people were very cool and respectful to us as kids, like, because and that's something we try and reciprocate is you talk to a kid, like, and you treat them like a person, and you treat them like they matter, or a new person, you let them know that, like, oh, I see what you're doing, I'm here, like, you're not visible, what is it that you would like to do, or what is it you would like to talk about. And like Gabe said, like, sometimes that 10 minutes or whatever it takes to do, like, costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And you're probably making somebody's day. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody, like, walk away from a conversation with a king or some person that was a legend in their mind, where they're like, oh my God, like, that just happened to me. Like, they just talked to me. And you're like, you guys talked about, like, the most mundane things. And it's so funny, like, because people get so excited. And, like, I get that way sometimes too, right? Like, you meet that person that's super cool to you, but, like, I don't know, you never know if you're that person for somebody, right? You may not have been before, but then you spend 10 minutes and they're like, oh man, like, I just got ignored by a lot of people, maybe, right? Or nobody noticed me because I'm a quiet person in a corner, but somebody paid attention, somebody saw me, and then you're like, okay, well, then that person goes, well, I can go talk to somebody else, or I can go, like, this isn't so hard. And I don't know, it's about sharing that love with the game and just giving people the time of day that they deserve.
Yeah.
So
it's a super cool trait. Like, I just think it's one of the most knightly things that you can do. Honestly, just give freely of your time like that with, like, no quid pro quo, really. I mean, you're doing it because you see somebody who needs to be integrated, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's part of the reason I play a bunch of stupid, dumb party games. It's easy to include people when there's an activity instead of just like a group of people talking in a circle, which is normally what a lot of parties are. It's like, no, we'll have an activity, and then people feel like they can join.
So Isabella from our kingdom says, when you were out at 12th night, she was very impressed with how you just invited people that looked like they were alone to have dinner with us, which is true. You did do that. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I figure, like, No one wants to eat alone, especially at an event. Like, it doesn't hurt us to meet a new friend.
Right. Right.
So thank you for that. That's awesome. We love it.
Definitely is something we learned from our parents. They're
Yeah,
very,
our dad's really good at that. Our mom's really good at that. Like just inclusion is so it's yeah.
Does your sister fight?
not, she can't.
No.
She's 15.
She's not quite old enough, and I don't know if she's super interested in fighting either.
She showed a little interest, but we don't pressure each other.
Yeah, she like, I think she deals with a little bit more of the like pressure, like that kid pressure from the SCA than we did, right? Because I mean, Dad wasn't a knight as I mean he got knighted as we were growing up and stuff, right? But like, and now she like I think sometimes she looks around and she's like, oh man, like my brothers are peers and my mom and dad are peers, and it's just like there's so much going on that I think she puts a lot of that pressure on herself, especially being like a teenage girl, because she's 15 now, almost 16. I think she's been like doing some driving and stuff, but like she puts a lot of that pressure on herself, and you're like, whoa dude, like no, like nobody expects that of you. You expect that of you, and I do see that from kids in the SDA sometimes, where they're like, well, I'll never be as good as my mom or my dad or my older sibling or whatever, and it's like nobody expects that of you. Like everybody just wants you to enjoy the game as much as everybody else does. So
Yeah, my son does that too, and he's the same age. He says, well, I can't do art because that's what you're good at, and I can never be the best at art. And I can't fight because that's what daddy's good at, and I can never be the best at that. And it's like, dude, you don't need to be the best. You need to live your life and do what's fun and have fun. So I don't know how to fix that. What, Misty?
He needs to find the joy.
Yeah.
It's not about being the best. It's about having a smile while you're doing it. Yeah. Enjoying the process.
And that's what, like with our little sister Morgan, it's just trying to tell her, like, because she told Dad, she's like, well, what if I'm not good at it? Like, what happens if I'm not good at it? It's like, did you see us when we started fighting? We were terrible. Like, I don't know. You're not going to be good right away.
Nobody's good at first at anything.
Yeah.
Right.
But
so did you guys coordinate your devices?
I think I copied him.
Yeah, I had made my device, and then this is back to the Gabe and I do really similar things, like, but we just alter it slightly so we're not doing the same thing. To lie to ourselves really is what we're doing. But yeah, so I had picked my device because I was turning 18 and I was going to be able to fight in Crown, and so I needed a device, and Bela told me I needed a name. And so I did some research on names and stuff like that. And I was like, I really like foxes, so I'll just do a fox. And then when it, I think same thing kind of happened for Gabe. Like he was becoming 18. He's like, oh, I want to fight in Crown. And then he was like, all right, well, I need a device. And he was just like, I'll just do a wolf, and then we'll just rotate the colors. And then we don't have 3 points of conflict, and we're good. And even if we did, like, it doesn't matter.
So by the way, this is my device here, and Nick's device is the same thing, except for the front of the body is red and the back of the body is white, and it's got a black and red background. It's the only difference. It's just rotated.
Did you pick Cypzser when you were 18?
Yeah. So, and that process was really kind of a dart shoot, right? So we went to a buddy's house who was a herald, and I was like, all right, we got to look at names. And he handed me and I was like, I don't know. I was born in Berlin, right? My parents were in the Air Force. Maybe something German, right? We'll look at German stuff. And he goes, oh, well, here's a German book. And I like flipped straight to the back. I was like, give me a Z name. That would be dope. Because like whenever you're like a 6-year-old kid, you're like, I want to be called Spike, or whatever. That was like my version of that at 18. Like, I want a Z name, And so I flipped to the back and I found Cypzser, and it was spelled Zipsir. And then, which I think is later century, like it's like 12th, 13th. And then it said also CzYpser. And so I switched to that, which is more of an earlier Germanic tribe's name. And that's what I ended up going with. But like, that was pretty much the base research I did on that was like, here's a book. Dope. that name. That's what I want. And the Herald was like, okay, cool. And then my actual first name is Alvaric. And so when we submitted it, it was Cypzser Alvercus. And Alvercus had this funny little quip in there that just meant like King of the Gnomes or something like that. And we were hanging out with like some shorter people at the time. And so I thought that was hilarious.
Nick was the tallest one. They did a 5-man tournament. It was my dad, Nick, and then like the person I call my uncle, Eric, who's like 5'2", and Christine, who's like 4'11".
Oh, so yeah, it was.
Nick picked that name and then walked around them just like, are you guys going to bow?
It was good.
How tall are you?
I'm like 5'11", and like I'm just under 6 foot tall. So, but like Dad's what, 5'10"? How tall are you, Gabe? 5'10"?
Yeah, there's
like
an inch between the three of us because Dad's like 5'9", I'm 5'10", and you're 5'11".
Yeah, so we're all similar heights, but I've been this height.
I'm 5'10" and Misty's or Rifkin is 5'6". Yeah,
got all the height.
Okay.
I'm a shorty.
Because Mom smoked when she was pregnant with you.
Yeah, that's what I used to tell my mom. You smoked when you were pregnant with me. That's why I don't have height.
Yeah.
Because both my sisters are tall. And of course, I was the athletic one that wanted the height, and I didn't get it.
But we're taller than Mom, I think, when we were 10. Morgan, our little sister, got taller than Mom when she was like 9.
Yeah, Mom.
Who's tall
Mom
in your
is
family
4'11".
then?
No one at all.
I'm the tallest person in like 5 generations.
Wow.
It's silly. Like,
yeah, we're all like U.S. average across the board. Like 5'10". There we go.
SCA mediums.
Yeah. I'm an SCA small, man. Everyone's huge.
I was gonna say I think Gabe is an SCA small.
That's fair.
In like growing up, like in high school, I was like one of the bigger ones of my friends, so I could kind of like rough them up, and they couldn't do anything about it. And then I brought 2 friends to an event, and they like looked around and realized I was tiny, and then so they just like started talking crap for me to get me beat up. Because they were loving the fact that all these people were bigger than me and beating me up. It's like, oh, this is a terrible idea. Why did I bring these kids?
Timmy's gotten us in too much trouble before.
Timmy's gotten us in a lot of trouble.
So you guys both moved from the Outlands to other kingdoms. What kind of like differences in the culture have you experienced from the Outlands?
You want to go first, Gabe?
I would have to say, Sarah actually just told me to tell the story, and it is relevant. Because we didn't have youth combat growing up, a lot of the other kingdoms thought we were just wild children, and in some ways we kind of were. So Nick, when he went to Penzik for his first time to fight in youth combat, because we made armor to go and fight at Penzik for youth combat, Nick got kicked off the field within like 5 minutes.
Well, I'd already been fighting for like 6 months in heavy combat
at Estrella and Gulf Wars and Lilies. He had done all 3 of those wars before this Penzik. And so they did a 3-man tournament, and each team had a knight that sponsored them and was like their coach. And so Nick was on this team, and Nick also, it was his like junior or senior year in football at the time. So he was in some decent shape. The guy's like, you're kind of big, so you're going to be the center of our charge. And they all had shields. Like I said, it's just a 3-man tournament. And he's like, so what you guys are going to do is when Leon is called, all 3 of you just charge. You just go in there. And then when they're all disrupted, you kill everybody. And Nick's like, okay, I can do that. Like I said, Estrella, Gulf Wars, Lily, and high school football. So Nick lines up, and they call Leon. And Nick hits these kids and blows all 3 of them up, and they go flying in the air. So the marshals start screaming hold and are freaking out, and they start yelling at Nick. They're like, you're only allowed to take 5 steps in a charge. And Nick looked at him and said, but I only took 3. And then the knight who was hosting his team was like, you just want to come to the heavy field? I'm pretty sure I can get you a sticker. And so that was part of the difference of Outlands. We didn't have to deal with youth combat.
What about Artemisia though? Because you're up there, and actually you spend a lot of time in Ontier, so I'm kind of curious, like from those perspectives, like moving out there and what you had to get used to.
Honestly, the Outlands in my mind is kind of like this barbarian hippie kingdom, because it really is. It's fairly entertaining. They don't have it's not very structured for a lot of things. And Artemisia very much likes their rules, and I have not quite gotten used to that yet. But other than that, that's really the only difference. They're pretty similar because they're both very large kingdoms with smaller demographics. So culturally, they're actually kind of similar.
Interesting. I think Rifkin and I came to an event in Artemisia this summer, and this is weird, but the biggest difference for me was smoking. In Ontier, you can't smoke anywhere near the Eric. You can't smoke anywhere where people are fighting. You're supposed to keep it in your tent or in designated areas. And it was so weird for me to be sitting there watching fighting and having people just, there's so many people in our kingdom who have asthma that it became a thing, like, you just don't do that because you don't endanger people's health like that. So it's a huge difference.
Yeah, Outlands people smoked all the time, so it wasn't like there's always people with cigarettes in their mouth.
It's not really like a common thing around Eric's though.
Yeah,
I think most people tend to step away.
Yeah,
they were just smoking between rounds, like right there. It was
gotta get the oxygen,
Yeah. You gotta relax or whatever. Gotta fight, relax, have a cig. I don't know. What about Atenveldt?
So Atenveldt's kind of weird, right? Because Outlands broke off of Atenveldt, and so a lot of the traditions are really similar to like Gabe and I, right? They're so close together, but they're just like slightly off kiltered if you squint a little bit. So there was a couple things that I noticed when I first moved down here, and one of them is the oaths. The oaths in the Outlands, and this is something Bela made sure that we memorized our oaths when we got offered our peerages, and so that was something I've always had in my head. And when I moved to Atenveldt, the oaths in the Outlands very specifically say king and queen, and lord and lady, right? Like it's very specific, both. In Atenveldt, it's an implied both. And so that was something I had to kind of get used to, and something that I kind of alter my oath when I speak it every reign to include, king and queen. And so that was, I don't know, it's kind of a small minor change. And Atenveldt is also kind of a king's word is law kingdom, right? Which is not something that I grew up with in the Outlands, right? I mean, it's still like if the king or queen decides to do something in the Outlands, cool, right? They pretty much have free reign to do it. But that was something that I think was a lot more common and a lot more forthcoming when I moved to Atenveldt. It's a common saying for someone to say king's word is law, and so those were kind of a couple of things that I had to do. And the other was that because Atenveldt is Arizona, it's just Arizona, right? It's so small. We have the same amount, and it's been a while since I've actually looked at the numbers, but we have the same population as the Outlands, which is Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and El Paso, Texas, and I believe a piece of Nebraska. Wow. And so in the Outlands, it's less common for people to know each other's real names or to do a lot of interacting outside of the SCA on a very normal basis, right? Like maybe in Baronies, they might hang out a little more. Atenveldt is so small that like everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everybody's stories for the last 20 years. Everybody knows, it's just very interesting. I moved to Atenveldt and realized everybody had two names. And in the Outlands, that was never a thing. And Facebook makes it even worse, but that was kind of an interesting difference when I moved down here. It was like, oh, it's Wednesday night. Like, what are we doing? Oh, well, we're going to the bar with, Merrick or Matt and, and Jay and whoever else. I'm like, who are these people? And it's like, oh, well, that's, Merrick, Casimir, Franny, whoever. And you're like, oh, okay, I know those names, but I'm just so not used to having that. And the other thing that I think is really cool about Atenveldt, because of that same kind of capacity and it being small, is I get really excited about anything, right? I'm like, oh, I want to learn a new thing, or I've figured out, I suck at soldering, right? Like I want to right now so bad go hang out with somebody who can show me how to solder, but because we're trying to stay, not sick, right? Like we're distancing, and I'm just like, it is destroying me that I can't just go 20 minutes to somebody's house and work on this thing who I know can do it and show me how to do it. But that's cool. Like I've never had to drive more than 20 or 30 minutes to somebody's house to be like, I want to learn how to do this, or can you show me this? Or, everybody's so close. Whereas in the Outlands, like especially armoring, I got kind of a little bigger into armoring with my buddy Koska down here, who's now in the Outlands. And it was really cool to be able to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to Koska's house on Sunday and work in his shop, and he's going to do stuff, and I'm going to watch what he's doing and try and learn. He's going to show me. Whereas in the Outlands, like if you wanted to learn, and that's, I can name 4 armorers in Atenveldt where it's like between a 20-minute and 2-hour drive or hour and a half drive that I could go see. In the Outlands, it was a lot less, right? We had Malguin who was making helmets. At one point, Sam was out there, but it was like, it was a much farther drive. You had to go much farther, and you had to. So I think the knowledge tends to not spread as quickly in the Outlands, because it's so much harder to get where you want to go.
Yeah,
It's been-
it's a problem. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's been really interesting to watch as we isolate longer and longer, how people are starting to share information and how more and more resources are being put online. And it's making the kingdom feel a little smaller because there is more information that's accessible.
Yeah.
I think if there's one thing that we can keep from the whole pandemic is the sharing of information on different sources. Like I wanted to learn how to do chasing and reprise, and my friend Sir Demetrius down in Atenveldt, it's like, well, I'm teaching a class in a week. And so I just hopped on and learned how to do it. And he was able to teach me how to make a simple coin. I made a pelican medallion for my mom, like a simple medallion through just video communication. Like he would send me a video on how to do it. I could go through and slow it down and kind of watch it. And then he would, if I had a question, I could video him back with what I had. And I don't know why we didn't do that before. Like, I don't know why that wasn't something that we had already been doing, because it's so, like, being able to get that sort of feedback and help with a project while being 600 miles away is awesome. Like, I think that is one thing we should definitely keep after this.
Yeah, I agree.
Every time somebody says they don't live close to anybody else for fighting, I'm like, look what we're doing now. Like, you don't need to live close. I mean, it's better, but you don't need to anymore, because you can have conversations, you can watch each other do PO work. I mean, you can do all of it. And you don't have to feel like you're completely isolated. So.
Me and Nick definitely have been in isolated areas in this country for fighting, and it's pretty rough.
Yeah, we were up in Montana for a little while.
And then in North Dakota for a little bit. And
Gabe tried to break my hand in Montana. That was not fun.
What part of Montana were you guys in?
We were in Sidney, Montana, which is like almost North Dakota?
Yeah, it's 20 miles from the North Dakota border.
Yeah, so we were doing water and sewer pipe out there doing construction, because our uncle decided that he was going to teach us how to be men, which was actually a really cool experience, going up there and like being a construction worker with a bunch of people that just like do nothing but cuss and drink 30 racks and smoke. And you're just like, oh, I'm just like, I don't really drink. I don't smoke cigarettes, like, but whatever. I'm here to experience this. Let's do this. And Gabe and I made some boffer weapons, and I don't remember. There was no pool noodle or something, and so we were using a pipe insulation, which was really thin. And we were fighting, and like 10 seconds into fighting, Gabe smokes me in the hand, and then like smokes me in the ribs. And I was like, Gabe, I thought like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like if I have to go to the hospital, I don't even know where the hospital is. Like chill out. And then he hit me in the knee, and I was like, we're not practicing anymore. Like this is over.
But the entire time we had one of the guys who was working with us, whose legitimate name was Tripper Thomas,
Oh my God.
from Missouri, was laughing his butt off the whole time. And just, this is better than watching a bug zapper. Just like me and Nick beat each other up.
Oh, it was pretty fun.
That was an entertaining time in our lives. We learned a lot.
So do you guys have goals in the SCA?
Yeah, I would like to be a Duke and a triple peer.
I mean, yeah, that's like our dad. When we first started the SCA, Dad was like, I'm going to set a lofty goal here and be a Duke and a triple peer. And I think we've both kind of gone towards that. Like, I'm not super stoked about being a Pelican ever. Not that being a Pelican's wrong. It's just like, oh my God, it's so much work. Right? Like, I'm not envious of the amount of work that Pelicans do. Like, I'm very supportive and will help and lift and carry things anytime any Pelican asks me to do it. But like, you know, but I think at this point, like, my big goal right now, like, I would like to win a crown tournament with different weapon styles. So I just won with Sword and Madu, and Mineko might convince me to fight in whatever ones, if we ever get to fight again, and, you know, Sword and Madu or whatever. But I'd really like to win with a Ramphaya, which is like my all-time favorite weapon. It's a 5-foot two-handed sword, basically, where it's 2.5 foot of handle and 2.5 foot of blade. So it's like a Japanese weapon for that would be like a naginata, I think. I might be wrong. So hopefully Seto's not listening. I'm probably totally wrong on that.
Get a message from Seto telling you are wrong.
Yeah, but like I would really like to win a style that like that, because there are so few people that have done it. Right, you've got people in North Shield, like Duke Tom, who fights Glaive. And that guy is a monster with Glaive. And then Duke Mark from the West, who's fights with Bastard Sword, I believe. And he's so phenomenal. Fast. And like that's what I want to do. I was like, we pigeonhole ourselves a little bit in the, and not pigeonhole, but like there's a lot of people that fight Sword and Shield because it is a lot less painful to fight, I think, and because we don't have as many teachers that teach those styles. And so I'm like, I think it would be super cool to win with multiple weapon styles as crown. And I like bringing my love of mass weapons to other people too, right? So like something that I'm going to require in this upcoming crown is, you know, at least one of the rounds is going to be mass weapons. And if I go much farther than that, that might be a little bit of a stretch, right? People might be talked about that. But I'd like to, you know, I think as a knight, you should be able to fight with anything. Like you should be able to pick a spoon up off the ground and do something with it, right? You know, but I think that's my big goal right now, and try not to like completely screw up being a peer. That's another lofty goal, I think.
Yeah. No, I think winning a crown I obviously have to win one first. Winning with 3 different weapon styles, because I think that's eventually I would like to win 3 crowns, and it's Sword and Madu, Sword and Shield, and then Glaive would be my goal.
Fun.
Cool.
When you fight in a crown, do you go in? I don't know how to say this. It's kind of taken negatively to go in with an agenda, but I don't think that's necessarily a negative thing. Other than just, you know, I want to win with this fighting style. Are there other goals when you reign?
Vision. You say vision, but not
vision.
agenda.
Do you have a vision?
I know I have a little bit of a vision, and like something that that I would like to go for. Like this crown in particular was a very interesting one. I had a couple of friends who were going through some pretty serious stuff in life, and I, not to get all fucking sorry, not to get all super weird. I very much at one point went, if I don't win now, it's very possible that someday I won't get to win with these people. And so that was kind of my like initial thing was like, I can do this. I just need to do this, right? Like I would like these people to be able to see me reign. And there were a couple scares there where I was like, oh crap, like my favorite people in the world. And so that was kind of one. And the other thing, probably kind of rolling back to some of the other stuff we talked about, is I'd like to give visibility to some of the people that maybe don't always get visibility. I think there's groups in the SCA like archery, equestrian, even fencing a lot of times, or even like arts. A&S sometimes gets put in a corner, or fencing gets put in a corner, or archery. Like if you don't participate in these things, you don't get to see these things, and you're not giving people like that face time they deserve, right? And so like that's my goal as Crown, and something that I saw my idols in growing up Rain would do is they spent a lot of time in each group, and that's something that I'm trying really hard to do, is like I want to make sure that the archery people feel like they're being seen, right? I think that's a big reason we have all of these, discussions about another peerage to include whatever, right? To include everything that isn't already a peerage, is because I think there's a lot of people that don't feel seen. And so that's kind of my goal, is like, whether we give everybody 1 million awards or whether we do whatever, like I want people to realize like that we see them and we appreciate what they're doing, even though sometimes like with archery, you put them way in the back so they don't shoot anybody on accident, or somebody doesn't come strolling through the woods behind the archery field. Like, but there's a lot of really cool people. And I notice each group that I step into have different talents, right? You go to the archery field and you notice there's a lot of people that make their own quivers, and they make their own bows, and they make their own arrows. And you're like, holy cow, like something I knew that you could do, but I'd never seen it done, and if I'd have never walked over to the archery field, we may have never crossed paths. And not because they don't do things outside of the archery field, or that I don't, it's just sometimes at parties we leave and we go hang out with our friends at parties when we could have done that in camp. But you go to the archery field and you're like, oh, okay, like all these people have really cool things that they want to talk about and they want to do, and they want to. So like that's my big goal, is just because Mineko's not really big into like she's on her own path right now, like to try and become a knight and get better at fighting and do all these things. Like that's kind of her big thing. And so I was like, well, I think traditionally we put it on the queens to do like fencing and archery and like all these auxiliary things in the SCA. And so like part of my goal as Crown is I want her to be able to continue on the path that she is traveling down, and not feel burdened or, feel like she has to shift directions or things like that on things that personally I love to do. I love to shoot archery. I love to do fencing and all these other things. And so I'm trying to take some of that lift off of her so that she doesn't feel obligated to do all these million things that we always expect queens to do, or that, invisible pressure that we put on people. It's like, I may not be good at emails or planning, right? We're going to work together on that stuff, but like, I can go do this other stuff so that it's not distracting from what you're trying to do, and so it's been kind of really cool to see the support from the different communities where like we've kind of switched places a little bit in a lot of the things that we're doing. So
I think
so
that's
that was
really
kind of
awesome.
a long-winded.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That's awesome.
Gabe, do you have any thoughts on that? I know you haven't won your crown yet, but
What do you think about, Gabe?
I mean, I definitely think that you should have, if you're going to go for a crown, you should definitely have somewhat of an idea of what you want to do, so you're not as shocked as everyone else there when it happens. Just saying. If you start like asking people to be on your retinue before a crown tournament, that's a little presumptuous.
yeah.
But I think you should have somewhat of an idea and at least talk to your partner or who you're fighting what their ideas are, so that you can you know you're on the same road, really, instead of, oh, well, I thought we were going to do this for the rain. Oh, that's not what you want to do? Oh, well, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's a terrible idea. And like, even if you have no chance of winning, you can still at least have somewhat of an idea of what you're going to try and accomplish, or just try and skate by without making too many people mad, because that is always a valid option for people.
Is there anything in particular, like that you see in Artemisia that you would like to implement something from the Outlands, or like, you know, or I don't know, anything?
I would like to give more AOA level awards than is currently being given, but other than that, I don't think there's really anything that needs to change. I actually I like the Artemisia traditions they have. And I don't think it's a smart idea for someone to come in who's only been in a kingdom for 2.5 years to win a crown and then change a bunch of things. So that sounds like a way to not be allowed in more crowns.
I didn't mean change things, but sometimes you can like add something, like a little bit of whipped cream on the ice cream or something.
Not really. I like the traditions of Artemisia, and I like the people who have put those traditions in place. And I wasn't honestly a huge fan of the crown tournament format at first, but I've grown to love it since I've been here. It was just a bit of a culture shock to go enter a bear pit for a crown or a round robin. I was very confused at first.
It does make sense though why they do it. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, get the kids involved more and try and help out with the youth combat program and make it so it's more exciting for kids to actually show up to events.
You know what I love about Artemisia is that they have that kids court at was it Uprising? Not Uprising. No, Uprising.
We do one at Uprising, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super cool. Like, we don't do anything like that in Montier.
Yeah, so. That's definitely a pretty cool tradition.
Yeah.
What is that? Can you?
They do like an entire court just for children, and so a lot of times they'll have like either puppets and things like that, and it's like a bunch of stick and just to make it fun for kids.
They have like a chest with candy in it and toys, and the kids can, yeah.
It's pretty neat. I definitely enjoy that.
We do like Queen story time where the Queen will read, or the King, sometimes it's the King, will read a book to the kids, and that's always really cool. But it's not as elaborate.
I think that'd actually be kind of cool. I went to the local library. They did a like knights read to kids, and so 3 of us showed up in armor and read to the kids. And they had like a bunch of books with knights and dragons and princesses and stuff in a pile, and the kids would go pick them and we go read it for them. And let me tell you, in full armor, libraries are very warm.
Even in the minimal armor that you wear?
I actually put on.
It does not.
I don't wear it.
It just doesn't wear it. Yeah.
I have multiple suits of armor. I just tend to not wear them when I fight. But I actually put on one of my suits of armor to go so that it wasn't just a dude in pajamas showing up. I'm a knight.
Pajama Viking.
Yeah. What did Uther say? Knights in shining pajamas? That's not what it was.
Early period Outlands.
Yeah, that's what I tell people my persona is early period Outlands circa 1980.
That's what Dad calls it. Dad is like not super interested in like the picking a period or anything. He's like, oh no, this is like early period Outlands. That's good.
Yeah, that's.
Do either of you have aspirations or plans to flesh out your persona? Not persona per se, because I'm really into researching my thing, but I'm me in the SCA and I'm me at home. I don't do the like alternate personality thing, but I'm really into, all the accoutrement of my culture. And do you guys have plans to do more of that, or?
As terrible as it is to say, not really. I was messing with Sarah today because she is a Laurel who very much thinks that you should have all of your accessories match. And I think currently I've got like 4 different periods on right now. Different things, and it drives her insane. But I was like, that's cool. I like it. And then I put it on because I can't sew.
But would you
D&D
wear
character
full
kid.
German for her?
Oh yeah, I'd wear whatever people make me. I just can't sew. Like, that's really where I'm at. I can make accessories. I just can't sew. I'm terrible at it. Sarah won't use the sewing machine anymore.
Dude, that's what trading is for.
Yeah, that's why I made jewelry, because I was like, you know who likes jewelry? Laurels who sew. That's who likes jewelry.
I thought you were going to say
Take that.
lady. Ladies.
Ladies
love
That's
jewelry.
what I thought. The ladies like it.
But no, be like, hey, I made this fancy bracelet. Would you like to sew me a tunic? Cool. And then you just trade. But it's actually something in Atenveldt culture that I stole. It is very common for them to trade goods with people and to like, okay, I'm good at this craft, you're good at that craft, and they'll trade items that they have made. And I'm like, that is really cool, because I don't personally like putting money involved in things that are like, because in reality, none of the things I'm wearing cost money, but sentimentally, they mean a lot to me. So it's hard to put a monetary value to that. But if you put the soul they put into their art, that is an equal value. So it's good to trade that way.
Yeah, that's why I don't do commissions, because it just, when I do work for somebody, it's, and this is kind of weird, but this is how I look at it. When I sew for someone, it's kind of like stalking them, because I'm thinking about that person with every stitch I put into whatever it is I'm sewing. And so even if I don't know you, like I made you a hat this week, I was thinking about you a lot this week. You had this weird little stalker happening.
I'm stoked about it.
Yeah. So, and I can't do that. Like if somebody were to approach me and say, hey, I really like your hats. Would you make me one? You know, I do these things. I can't really do that, because it has to be something that I'm inspired to do. And it's random, you know, like I don't know Gabe really that well, but he was so kind to my kids, and he made my husband really excited with these spurs that he was handing out. And so I was like, I'm gonna make a hat. And also you wore my hat around, and that was awesome. So yeah, so it's I don't know, that kind of thing is weird for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry.
No, like, I totally agree. I'm not a fan of like charging for my wares, and like there are people who do that for a living, and that is perfectly respectable. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those, like, I enjoy it. I don't want to have to do it for money.
When you kind of conflict with those people too, right? There's people that do this for a living.
Yeah, I don't make any of my friends who do that for a living mad by stealing some of their customers.
Right.
Yeah, you're like, let me give you my like Walmart version of something really cool that like Scott and Maggie makes, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, it's gonna be cool and you're gonna like it, but like if Scott had done this, it would have been ridiculous.
I look at Scott stuff all the time, and I'm like, how am I ever gonna be able to make a ring like this? Like, how is
dude? Maybe one day.
Maybe one day after a decade of figuring this out.
After your 1,000 hours of practice.
Yeah.
10,000.
10,000.
I want to spend 1,000 hours with Scott practicing. That would be cool.
Is this Scott and Maggie? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
So
he's always got stories.
Misty and I have he's sort of our cousin. He was married to our cousin, this guy. His name is Scott as well, who is in this band called Neurosis, who Scott and Maggie Scott roadied for.
Oh.
And so, and she ended up dying, and the service was at our mom's house, and Scott was with Scott at our mom's house way before we ever found the SCA and way before he ever did his Viking thing. It's like a weird connection.
The world is small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world is very small. The SCA definitely makes it smaller. I enjoy being in the SCA because I can, if my car breaks down anywhere in this country, I can call someone and have help within 3 hours.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
I know it is. I've got every state.
Or a couch to sleep on if you need it.
Yeah.
You know, when we aren't in a pandemic.
Yes.
Well, we've been going about an hour and a half. Do you have any, last questions, Dawn or Shaxi? Sorry.
We knew that was going to be a problem. We kind of covered everything. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about, or any questions you want to ask each other or us?
Oh man!
Nick,
now the brothers interview the sisters.
Uh-oh.
Welcome to our show.
I am not prepared.
Let me get my notebook over here.
Watch Rifkin get uncomfortable.
My shoulders go up to here when I get uncomfortable.
Oh no! Don't do that. All right, what were you gonna say, Gabe?
Oh no, I actually just don't know when your coronation is.
I don't think he knows. Do you know?
Yeah, right now. So the next event we have planned on our schedule. So as Atenveldt, we have canceled all events until at least to August. The very first event that we have on the list is an event called Middle East Feast, which is this really cool event that happens at this hotel in Phoenix. And, there's dancing and drumming, and it's just like a super cool. So we have at this point, we're looking at doing our coronation there. Obviously, we haven't solidified everything because of the pandemic going on. But the goal is if we can have an event then and we can have people come, because we do have people from out of kingdom that would like to be there as well, to do it there. We think it would be kind of a neat thing, and we would do it outside in the courtyard and throw up some torches and stuff. So that's what we're looking to do, and I think that's like August 8th.
What culture are you guys going to step up in?
So we're looking at and you guys had actually asked about personas.
Yeah.
I've been trying to go more down like the Thracian Macedonian route of like Alexander the Great time period, like 350 BC. And so that's been kind of the goal, and trying to do more research on that stuff. Because it's, I don't know, I think it's, first of all, Arizona is so hot. So like going Greek is like an easy thing. But I think there's a lot of really cool things about that time period. I like the sun, right? It aligns with Atenveldt's sun. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things. And one thing that I think is really neat is like learning the history and learning it from different points, right? If you look at shoes, there's, the Romans and the Greeks had, caligae or sandal-like shoes because they were doing a lot of, marching, right? Romans were doing a lot of marching, right? You can see where their shoes started becoming more into shoes as opposed to these sandals, right? Because they were doing probably a lot more standing than marching. And so like, just like learning different things from that perspective. Sorry, I lost my earpiece. But no, I like that time period. So we're stepping up in like Macedonian, like Alexander the Great style. So,
awesome. I love it.
Well, I hope it goes forward in August. That would be great. Are you going to go down for it, Gabe?
Yeah, I'd go down.
Oh,
Gabe
okay.
would go down.
So I'm getting actually a couple of questions via private message. Please ask Gabe on the spot if he'd help me make that full German outfit.
No.
Oh, Sarah.
I don't know, Gabe. I think you could rock some leather pants.
I'd wear leather pants, but I'm not going to make leather pants. I will trade some of the items for leather
Gabe's
pants.
just refusing right now.
100%.
Did you make one of those big, like, chains, those German chains?
Just ridiculous. I just get one of our toe chains, like our hoisting chain.
Go to the hardware store, get some.
Yeah.
What and there's another question. I would like to hear them talk about their ladies. What role does your inspiration play when you fight? And I mean, you talked about kind of giving Miniko the space to still pursue, to not interrupt her pathway to knighthood with you winning crown. And I think that's awesome. What else would you say?
So I think something that really helped, like even in crown tournament or other things, like something I've had to learn over the last couple of years is to allow myself to be inspired in that way, if that makes sense, right? Because a lot of times I go out and I'm fighting and I'm just there to have fun and I'm doing whatever. And I've always been that way, right? So then like the last couple of years, it's like, man, it would be really cool to win for Minako. Like, and it went from being fun and how cool it would be to be king to I would really like to make her queen, you know? And so that kind of shift in dynamic, I think, helped my head a little bit because it gave me something to focus on. And so that's something like when I go out and I'm getting ready for a fight, a lot of times I will stop, I take a minute, and I kind of just imagine like basically I have to sit there and just imagine putting the crown on her head, right? And that's what I do is until I can feel the crown in my hands, I wait, right? That's how I flush all of the crowd and everything else going on in a tournament is I just go, no, this is what I'm here for. This is what I would like to do. I can still do that and have fun, you know, but it was just allowing myself to be inspired. And it is kind of funny because she fights as well. A lot of times, like we're at tournaments and I'm like the first couple of rounds, we're just like looking around, like she's somewhere, you know, like she's off fighting. And so we try really, and that's something we had to work on together. We're very, very independent people. And like, even at parties and stuff like that, we travel, we just like, I see you 24/7. Like I'm going to go hang out with people I don't get to see 24/7, you know, but we've both kind of gotten to that state where we're like, oh, like, no, it's okay. It's okay to be inspired by each other, right? That's an okay path to take. And so, you know, she does a lot of other things, and like we work together on like projects, and like we do a lot of collaboration, which she's very helpful and inspiring on, especially because she knows exactly what's going to trigger me to be stubborn, and she tries to dance around that stuff a little bit, like, you know, Nick, this idea kind of sucks, but let me throw this other idea at you. What do you think of this? It's like, what do you mean my idea sucks? You're like, no, look at what I'm trying to show you, you know. So but yeah, that's just been cool. I think for a long time I played the SCA for me, and it's cool to play the SCA for someone else as well. So
It's awesome.
For me, I just like to have Sarah be able to go and brag to her friends that I won her things. So that's much more simple for me.
You know what? Everybody's got a goal, Gabe. Everybody's
Nobody
got
believes you, Gabe.
Yeah, it was.
Sarah, you're not in this interview.
The same, the event you guys came to in Artemisia, I was fighting well in a tournament, and Sarah's friend that she had like grown up with had come out for Virginia to see her Laureling. And I was like, all right, I got to fight good today. Sarah gets to brag to her friend. Like, that's what I got to do. But I could hear, like, after my first round, we did a little round robin thing. I killed my opponent. It was just like a simple shot. And I could just hear Sarah like, see, he is good. Like, okay, cool. Goal is met. I can die now.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, much more simpler. But Nick struggles a lot with focusing in general. So if you look at his crown videos, you can see Minako. She's always over his opponent's shoulder, so he can always see her.
That's cool.
Awesome.
It's a cool teamwork thing. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have.
All right. Well, I really appreciate you both taking time out of your pandemic day to
very busy
talk to us.
No, it was fun. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that. And like, I think it's really cool what you guys are doing, and you're giving people like SCA TV. You know, there's a lot of people that I think we're having like virtual courts and things like that, which are a little weird, you know, but having these videos and watching people talk to each other and interact, you're like, oh man, that's cool. Like I can still kind of SCA without having to be at an event. You know, it gives everybody that little bit of SCA-ness. So thank you guys for putting all this
allowing people to keep their dream alive in a time that it's very hard to keep the spark in our game. So good job. Yeah. And thank you for letting us be a part of that.
And thank you for being our first set of siblings.
Yay!
Right.
Hopefully we didn't ruin it for the other siblings.
No more Saturdays.
Oh no, you just threw the door wide open.
I'm actually curious to see like how many groups of siblings are out there, you know, because I know like in Atenveldt we've got Renee and Nikki who are twins.
Yeah,
right?
they're on our list. They don't know it yet.
Oh man,
Probably
I'm
about
calling.
to talk to both of them right
I'm
after.
calling Nikki. Nikki was my Laurel too, so that would be cool.
Well, isn't Craven's wife Ed's sister too?
Elzbieta.
Yes, yeah, Elzbieta.
And then
oh,
you
man, I was
have
like, no, it's Ray Lee, but that's her real name.
Osa and Uther, and I forgot Chad's STA name, but
I actually don't know Chad because I know Chad mostly on Facebook.
yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of them, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. See how it goes.
Yeah.
So, thanks again, and thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.